What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing fantastic. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. For anyone who knows me, they know that I am obsessed with comedy. I live and breathe comedy. I like to tell jokes. I consider myself a funny person in a social setting, in the right social setting. I especially like stand-up comedy, and I have a lot of favorite stand-up comedians that I watch and that have inspired me to be funny or try to pursue something in that art in maybe the future. With that being said, I thought it would be cool if I took 20 of the most famous, most popular comedians that we all know and love, and some that I personally have a connection to, and rank them on a tier. Now, there's a website called Tier Maker. I'm not sure if any of you have ever heard of that, but basically it allows you to make your own tier, name the tiers any way you want it, going from A to F, I guess, or whatever you want to name it. And I've created a tier starting from one of the funniest people on earth, going all the way down to pure cringe. Now, I have a very diverse lineup of people that I'm ranking. Obviously, there are so many comedians out there, I couldn't have even gotten close to getting all of them. So I chose what I thought would be some of the biggest names. Now, I do just want to preface that all of these people, well, at least most of them, they're famous comedians for a reason. They're funny in their own regard. They have serious fan bases, and I do not mean to offend anybody, and my opinion is not gospel either. It's just my opinion. You might not like what you hear in some of these. You might be obsessed with one person, and I say that I don't like them, but I just urge you not to get upset about it. Just know that it is my opinion. Also, I did just want to say that some of these comedians, well, actually all of them, I have at least had minimal experience with. I didn't want to choose a comedian that, maybe even a famous comedian, that I didn't have any experience with, that I didn't watch a special on, that I didn't watch a movie with their character in it, anything like that, because that doesn't make sense and that wouldn't really be a fair assessment. Also, too, a little bit of kind of what I'm going on and how I'm basing my judgments. This isn't, even though a lot of these people are stand-up comedians, it's not entirely based off stand-up. It's based off their entire work. So movies, television, stand-up will obviously to be included. Anything that they have done that they have attempted to be funny, that's what I'm going to be using in my judgment. And I am taking a risk making this video because it's something that is entirely new to this channel. So if this is something that you guys like, of course, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know that it's something you might want to see again in the future. But with no further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. Alright guys, so I've actually already recorded this one time, but my dumb ass forgot to hit record on my my desktop monitor, so I'm gonna do this again. But anyway, so this is in no particular order. It's basically from A to Z. Well, I guess A to R. And this basically on basically how I named my files, how I put them into the tier. So obviously A, Adam, R, Richard. So it's not based on, you know, how I like them or whatever. It's just alphabetical order. And as you can see, I have the different tiers ranging from one of the funniest people on earth all the way down to pure cringe. In the middle, we have my belly hurts from laughing, hilarious, solid comic, and I laughed a few times. As I said in the previous recording that you guys didn't hear, hilarious and solid comic, I put those two side by side, and I added an extra row because those are really close. So if you see somebody in hilarious or you see somebody in solid comic, then that probably means it's interchangeable, that they could go in one or the other. Because if you're a solid comic, then obviously you're doing your job pretty well and you're hilarious. But with no further ado, we're just going to jump into this. So first, we got Adam Sandler. Now, Adam Sandler is primarily known for his start in Saturday Night Live, and I think it's the 80s or the 90s. So either way, he's been doing comedy for 20 or 30 years. So he's been in the industry for decades. And when he first started, it was like everything that he touched was gold. He has Happy Gilmore, he has Big Daddy, he has The Waterboy, you name it. He has tons of just fantastic, hilarious movies. Little Nicky, you know, just tons, especially in that era that he was really dominating comedy in that in the Saturday Night Live scene. Now, I would say obviously that Adam Sandler, his stand up, he probably hasn't done as much lately because he's one of the most grossing movie stars in the entire world. So he's probably taken some time off from stand up. I didn't see a ton of his stand up when he was starting out either. Now, and I know too that he has produced some stinkers, some Jack and Jills, some grown-ups, I guess, depending on whether or not you're into that sort of thing. But Adam Sandler is fucking funny. I wouldn't say he's one of the funniest people on earth, especially right now. But he has diversified his comedy with other things, and he's even taken some more serious roles. That Uncut Gems, which I've yet to watch, but I hear is amazing. Okay, next is Amy Schumer. And as I said before, a lot of these people, all of these people, anybody who is a famous comedian is funny. They have to be in some sense to get fans and to stay relevant. But Amy Schumer, I am personally just not a fan of her. She's been in a lot of controversy about stealing jokes. I know she had a Comedy Central special where they basically showed the entire skit was stolen from somewhere else. And I will say that I have laughed at Amy Schumer's jokes before, but the cringe totally outweighs the laughing. So she is pure cringe. I did watch her Leather special, which probably was on Netflix maybe 4 or 5 years ago or something like that. And that got one of the worst receptions from any comedy special in Netflix's history, and for good reason. I got about halfway through it before I had to get out of there. It's pretty terrible. Now, again, I don't know if you guys know who this next fella is, but this is Anthony Jeselnik. Now, Anthony Jeselnik got his, from where I found him was the Comedy Central roast of Justin Bieber and all the other ones, Flavor Flav or whatever. I don't know if he was on actually all of them, but that's where I found him, and his humor just jibes with me. His dark humor, his composure, his tempo, his timing is just out of this world. He's just so good at his style of humor, and it just so happens to be the type of humor that I'm interested into. So I would say Anthony Jeselnik is my belly hurts from laughing. And it's so funny because, like I said, I did this recording just right before this, and it would be interesting to see if there are any that change based on me just basically mentally psyching myself out and kind of reevaluating. But Anthony Jeselnik is funny. He might not be one of the funniest people on earth to somebody else, and if you don't like his humor, or if you're easily offended, you're not going to like Anthony Jeselnik. I'm pretty sure he made like a 9/11 joke on 9/11, of 2001, and got a lot of backlash. But he kind of has that mantra that nothing's too soon, and I kind of like that because it's comedy, it's supposed to be funny, and you're not supposed to take offense to it. But yeah, I would say my belly hurts from laughing for him. Now, Aziz Ansari, I'm pretty sure I put him in solid comic. And the only reason that I did put him in solid comic is because I know that he's been in a few movies. He was in Adam Sandler's Funny People. I have seen a few of his specials. I wouldn't say they're totally memorable to me, but he is funny, and he did have some jokes in there that made me laugh. He is, obviously, but he's been around for a while now, so he's probably here to stay. But I would say that he's a solid comic. Bill Burr. See, that's how you already know. Bill Burr, without me even saying anything, is one of the funniest people, if not the funniest person on earth. Bill Burr is just so diverse. He can go to Colbert or Fallon or something like that in an audience that completely is different than what he is used to. A very liberal audience, someone who or an audience that doesn't like to hear cursing, an audience that, will gasp at any dirty joke or at any offensive joke, and he will go and kill there. And I think that is just a testament to Bill Burr's ability as a comic to really divulge his situation and where he's at and be able to make it funny based on where he's at. His stand-ups, they're all bangers. The black and white one is really good. I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head right now, but there's probably 3 or 4 that are absolutely just incredible. And I would highly recommend, if you've never seen any of Bill Burr's stuff or you're not really familiar with him, to go and watch it. He does interviews all the time, and he just kills it. He was on Hot Ones probably, maybe not quite a year ago or something like that. Crushed it. So he's definitely one of the funniest, most adaptive, most versatile comedians on earth. Now next is Bill Hicks. And I was really, really weary about putting comedy legends on this list. I wanted this to be most about either up and coming, established comics that still have something to give. Bill Hicks is dead. George Carlin is dead. Richard Pryor is dead. So I was kind of like, you're going to upset somebody because they have a legacy. Some people would put Bill Hicks, no joke, at the funniest person on earth, the number 1 comedian ever. Now, like I said in the last recording, Bill Hicks, he died an untimely death. I'm pretty sure he got cancer of some sort and died maybe in his 30s. But what I have seen of Bill Hicks, he is fucking hilarious. And he has his own style, his own swag. He was doing comedy before it really blew up into the flourishing industry that we see today. He's the type of comic where he goes up there and draws a cigarette and just does his show. Drinks on some scotch. He's a really funny guy. I would put him, and I can't remember if I actually put him in Hilarious or My Belly Hurts From Laughing, but I think it was My Belly Hurts From Laughing, and the reason for that is because he's too good. He's a top 5 comic of all time. He's too good not to have near the top. The only reason he's not one of the funniest people on earth, in my opinion, is because I have such a limited, I guess, lexicon of his work. So that's the only reason. But he is very funny from what I saw, and I think he only did stand up. Okay, so next we have Bo Burnham. And Bo was so hard to put on this list when I did it last time because, as I said, Bo doesn't really fit in this box. Bo would identify himself as a comedian, but he's also an entertainer. He's a musician. He is a social scientist. Bo would have something funnier to say. He was like, I'm a lumberjack or some shit. And that's just the type of humor Bo is. What Bo does incredibly well. He does it better than anyone on the planet. And he has the type of performances, the type of things that you remember. I fondly remember his show What when I first saw it on Netflix. It was the first time I kind of had seen Bo on the big stage, and because I knew Bo early on YouTube when he was doing I'm Bo Yo and stuff like that. But it was kind of crazy to see him blow up and people be like, wow, Bo Burnham. And that ending to What we think we know you. If you haven't seen that whole show, go watch it. But that last part, it's probably 10 minutes long or so. If you haven't seen that, that is something that will give you goosebumps and chills. And for that reason and that reason alone, and pure impact and memorability, Bo Burnham is one of the funniest and most creative people on earth. Chris Rock. Chris Rock, again, I think he was with Adam Sandler in SNL in the 90s. He was killing the 90s. He was selling out, and he was doing a lot more stand-up too than I believe Adam Sandler was. But he was selling out arenas. He was crushing. He was in movies too. He was in like as a 17-year-old kid, he was in something really big, and I can't remember what it is. But he is so funny. He's one of those guys that can make you laugh, like saying anything. Cottage cheese, He's just got that voice, that funny kind of saying from the Gilbert Gottfried mold. If you've heard him talk, just being funny just by talking. He's one of those guys. Him, Bill Burr, and there are very few people that can pull that off. I will say, Chris Rock has kind of fallen, I wouldn't say fallen apart or declined even, but lately he's been kind of a part of Adam Sandler's Stinkers with, not Role Models, Grown Ups, and a few of those other movies that didn't do so hot because they're, him, David Spade, they're in all those movies. But he's still funny, and if you catch Chris Rock at the right special or right joke, he can make your belly hurt from laughing. He's that funny. Now, Dave Chappelle, you can't really tell because his head got cut off. Sorry, Dave. But anyway, so Dave, and this is what I said, and I'm just going to go ahead and move him up here while I explain myself. Dave had the Chappelle Show, which you should know. If you don't know, then definitely look it up, watch it. It's not on Netflix anymore, unfortunately, because Dave had him take it down because they weren't paying him, but that's neither here nor there. Chappelle Show, probably top 5 show in America at the time it was going on. Super funny, showed his versatility. He was doing different characters, different skits, different jokes. He was doing monologues at the beginning of the show. So versatility there. He had Half Baked when I can't remember if that was before or during the Chappelle Show, but he had that show with that movie rather with Jim Brewer, and this is what makes him one of the funniest people on earth. Dave Chappelle, as most of you may know, took a stint away from comedy. A lot of people didn't know where Dave Chappelle went. He was away for several years, and when he came back, it was like he had never left. That shows not only that what he meant to the community, what he meant to fans, but the fact that he is that funny that he can literally take a hiatus, go take a 3, 4, 5, 6, however long year vacation he wants, come back and still be at the top of the game. And his new Netflix special, can't remember the name of it, is funny as shit, of course, as it would be with Dave Chappelle. He is definitely, was, and still is one of the funniest people on earth. Okay, George Carlin. Nothing needs to be said. George Carlin is one of the grandfathers of comedy. He is one of the funniest people to ever exist. And the thing about George Carlin is he had that blend of being able to be funny, but also make you turn inward on yourself, which is very hard to do. And it's when you do it, it's very impactful for the audience and the comic. And he has a lot of things that are memorable. If you look up George Carlin, you'll find 100 quotes of either jokes, things that he said, and it's stuff, and this is the thing about being a good comedian, it's stuff that is so obvious that nobody believes that it makes it funny. And that's kind of the recipe for a good joke, and I feel like kind of the recipe that he was able to hit on so successfully is that he was able to point out the obvious in a way that made everyone else feel dumb, where they had no choice but to laugh. And it's kind of one of those shows, one of those specials, one of those people that you walk away from it feeling like you learned something. And that's why he's one of the funniest people on earth. Now, Hannibal Buress. He's a very funny guy. I have a very limited material that I've seen from Hannibal, but he's everywhere too. He's an actor. He's a stand-up comedian. If he doesn't have something on Netflix, then I've seen something on YouTube from him, and I've seen special from him, and it was funny, and I laughed. And he's more, I would say, than a solid comic, and he's hilarious. He might be more than that. I just have a limited scope of what I've seen from him. He's very creative in his humor. He's able to he sheds light on things that you didn't even realize were there, and he's very good at that. That's why he's hilarious. But I wouldn't say that I've ever thought of Hannibal Buress and my belly hurting from laughter. Okay, now Jeff Ross. Now, Jeff Ross is the Roastmaster General. He, like Anthony Jeselnik, but even more so, he kind of got his fame from doing the Comedy Central roasts in the early 2000s, maybe, mid-2000s, whatever. And that's kind of what he's known for. He had a show, I'm pretty sure, on Comedy Central where he would roast people. I don't think it's still on the air. I think it got canceled. But I don't think it did too well. That's the thing about Jeff Ross. His humor, he could out roast any number of people on this list. But I don't think his humor translates necessarily to stand-up comedy, to movies. So that's where his versatility kind of lacks, I would say. But Jeff Ross has one of my probably top 5 jokes of all time when he was at the roast of... Can't remember who the roast of was, but the joke, Sarah Silverman was there. And, you go around, you pick people, you roast them. And he said, she was in that Wreck-It Ralph movie. And he said, he's like, Wreck-It Ralph, that's like your men. First you wreck it, then they Ralph. First they wreck it, then they Ralph. I totally butchered the joke. But if you can find that on the internet and your belly doesn't hurt from laughter, please tell me in the comments, because something is wrong with you. That is a funny joke, and it is so creative that he was able to think of that, and he just has really good instincts for that sort of humor. So I would say my belly hurts from laughter with him. Now, Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld is probably in a lot of people's top 5 comedians of all time, for the simple fact that he's been there, done that. He's been a comedian probably well over 30 or 40 or 50 years now. I don't know how old he is. He's probably in his 60s. He's probably been a comic for 40 years. He had potentially the greatest sitcom of all time, Seinfeld, that is his namesake, a show about nothing, that I'm pretty sure on the last episode had several, maybe 100 million people tune in. So he went out on top of that. He's probably close to being a billionaire at this point. The only thing about Jerry Seinfeld is I don't feel like I've ever really watched Seinfeld and had a gasping for air breathe, like, oh my God, I can't stop laughing. And from what I've heard, I haven't really seen him do a lot of stand-up, but I do know that he tends to recycle his jokes a lot more so than some of these other comedians do or did. A lot of comedians will tell a joke, do a routine for a year tops, maybe, and after that, they completely scrap it. They trash it. They start over. They write new jokes. Jerry Seinfeld is kind of one of the last, I guess, original people to really think that the show mainly revolves around his act and him. So he thinks the audience doesn't necessarily care about the jokes as long as he's the one delivering it. So he has kind of got a bad rap for maybe telling some old stale jokes and kind of focusing the attention too much on him as opposed to maybe the jokes themselves. But for that, I will put him as a solid comic. Jim Gaffigan. Jim Gaffigan, again, is... I've seen specials of his. He's been around forever. I remember when I was probably in 8th or 9th grade, maybe even younger, 6th or 7th. I don't know. I was really young. And the most memorable thing about Jim Gaffigan, of course, is the Hot Pocket skit or routine where he does, I'm pretty sure, maybe it was on Comedy Central or something like that. It was the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. That's what it was. And I remember watching that when I was really young, and I still had a MySpace and all that stuff. But I wouldn't say that my belly hurts from laughter. That's really the only memorable joke that I've seen from him or remember from him. I did watch his special probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago that came out, and it was good, but it wasn't something that was groundbreaking. I would say he's a solid comic. Jim Jeffries. Jim Jeffries is kind of a weird one too, because in 2000, late 2000s, I was really obsessed with Jim Jeffries. He had a special, I think it was called I Swear to God or something like that, where he basically shit on everything. But he's a pretty renowned, known atheist or non-believer. And I was kind of questioning myself during that time. So, and it might have been early 2010s, sorry. But I was kind of questioning myself, and the way he kind of poked fun at religion, because you can joke about anything, of course, was kind of what I needed to hear at the time. And it kind of, I must have watched that special 5, 6, 7 times. And and even the next special, I can't remember what that one was called, but that one was very funny too. He had some really good, like, Second Amendment American jokes and stuff like that in that comedy special. But he was really funny, and then he kind of, I don't know if he stopped doing stand-up or doesn't do it as much. I know he had a show, I think it was called Legit, on FXX or something like that, and it didn't do too incredibly well. It may have done a couple of seasons or something like that. I know he was doing that. And then I think he got something on Comedy Central or something, a show that was kind of like centered around him, where he was kind of like telling jokes and stuff. I haven't really watched that. I kind of lost touch with him for a while. But I would still say that he is hilarious. I wouldn't say my belly hurts from laughing anymore, but it did at a point. Now, and this is one that I'm almost certain will be kind of, I don't know, I'll get backlash on this, because Joe Rogan is very smart. He's smarter than a lot of people like to give him credit for. He has obviously one of the biggest podcasts, if not the biggest podcast in the world right now, the Joe Rogan Experience. Just sold it to Spotify for like $100 million or something crazy like that. And he's diverse in his, I guess, his portfolio of comedy. He did Fear Factor. He does the UFC now, so he's kind of crossed a lot of things. Fear Factor, I don't know if necessarily is meant to be funny. UFC, he's funny in that, but I don't think it's necessarily meant to be. His podcast is more interesting to me than it is funny. He has funny people on there, but I never feel that that Joe himself is the brunt of what I'm laughing at when I'm laughing on that podcast. And I have seen his stand-up. It's fine. It's good. It's good, but I wouldn't say that it's my belly hurt from laughter. I would say that he's solid. And it's so funny because I'm pretty sure that this is going out of order from the way I did it before. But that's quite okay. Maybe not. Well, anyway, so next is Cat Williams. And I put him on this list on purpose because Cat Williams, he was dominating the world there for a while. He was kind of Kevin Hart before Kevin Hart was Kevin Hart. Before Kevin Hart, you know, if that makes sense. He had great jokes. He had an audience that a demographic that absolutely loved him. And then, like, lately, I know he went to jail, and I think he got beat up like by a 6th grader, and that kind of lost him some face there. But when Cat Williams was on, he was funny, and I wouldn't quite say that my belly was hurting from laughing. I can't remember where I put him last time, and that's what makes it so cool that this is so flexible. But I think I would put him at a hilarious. It's hard to put him in the top 2 right now, because as top 2 tiers, because he's kind of fallen off the face of the earth. I don't know if he's done a special in a while, but he's a funny character. Okay. So next, and I'm gonna get. This is a very extreme person, Kevin Hart is. You either love him or you hate him, and I don't quite love him. I don't hate him either, because I saw him on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he's a very smart guy, very informative. He has an amazing work ethic. I'm pretty sure he got in a bad car accident, was able to get through that, like broke his back. He got caught up in like a messy cheating scandal. some other scandals. He's a Hollywood regular now. But in terms of his comedy and actually laughing at his jokes, never really liked his stand-up. And the main reason for that is because I think Kevin Hart tries too hard. I think he likes to laugh at his own jokes. And to me, that kind of takes away from the comedic aspect. Kevin Hart, I don't know, like laughing at your own jokes. Like Anthony Jeselnik is a good example. He will tell the worst, most dark, funniest joke in the world and keep that composure. And composure is a really valuable thing to have in comedy, and something that I like to pay attention to, because it kind of you're a character up there. You're not supposed to be one of the audience. You're supposed to be a character up there that is putting on a show. And when you kind of help the audience by laughing at something that you think they should think is funny, I think it kind of ruins the joke a little bit, even if it is funny. So for that reason, he's not cringe, because he's too good of an actor, too good of a comedian to be cringe. But I have laughed a few times. Now, Louis C.K., hopefully I don't get canceled for this, but Louis C.K., even amid all of those scandals with the women where he apparently masturbated in front of them, he did do that consensually, and I'm not going to get into that. But I wouldn't consider him Bill Cosby. He's not a rapist. He may have done something in the confounds of power that he may not should have done, but I wouldn't say he's a rapist. He just did something that was kind of weird, and got called out for it. But in terms of comedy, he has that humor too, that awkward humor. And it's kind of a little bit more awkward now, because now some of the stuff he was saying that you're like, oh, Louis, you're so funny, it's kind of coming out to be true. But I still think Louis is one of the funniest people on earth. He had specials that were crushing before this whole scandal happened, maybe a few years before that even. He had a show on FX, Louis, which is amazing. I'm pretty sure he was on one of the big movie blockbusters several years ago, where he got like beat up or something like that. Maybe it was American Hustle or something like that. But he showed his versatility. Now he's just got to show his ability to bounce back. Hopefully the cancel culture lets him come back and do. I know he's kind of performing at like low-level nightclubs and stuff, but I don't think he's released a special since that incident. I would love to see more content come from him. He is definitely one of the funniest people on earth, and it's sad to see that kind of whole thing happened for him. Now, last but not least is Richard Pryor. Now, again, this might be a little divided too. Richard Pryor is one of the gods of comedy. He's one of the forefathers of comedy. I would say 90% of people on this list and elsewhere would not be doing comedy if it weren't for Richard Pryor. He kind of innovated the being able to tell dirty jokes. He went through so much turmoil in his own personal life. I'm pretty sure he was almost burned alive as on accord, but still. And he bounced back. He told jokes. He was so funny during that time period. Now this is where kind of the criticism comes in. If I were to say that Richard Pryor, if you took him and dropped him in the 21st century and said that he would be as funny then or as funny now as he was then, I don't think so. Now that's the only gripe I have on Richard Pryor. He was funny for his time period, and he still is funny. But I don't think he would be the god of comedy that he is in this day and age. I think somebody like George Carlin would have related more to the present modern day audience. But Richard Pryor, with that being said, Richard Pryor, at that time,
and it hit me like a shot, man. I started crying and shit. I was sitting there, I said, yeah, I've been here 3 weeks. I haven't even said it. I haven't even thought it. And it made me say, oh my God, I've been wrong. I got to regroup my shit.